Greetings, YouTube. One of the things that's been in the conservative zeitgeist in the last year is the whole concept of groomers. That teachers that want to educate students and members of the LGBT community that want to have their existence admitted and have their existence accepted are trying to groom children into sexual activities, trying to groom them, not only that, but also trying to move them into the direction, pushing them into the direction of the LGBTQ community. They're pulling them away from the righteous path of being cisgender heterosexuals. That is the kind of concept that the fascists have been forming and thrusting into the media sphere in the last year or so. And education is not grooming. Education is a tool. If you teach a child what the correct names for their bodily anatomy is, that is not grooming. If you tell them what a breast is called, what a nipple is called, if you, when they're older, tell them that, that these items have to be checked for lumps and breast problems, that's not grooming. That's anatomy and basic health. If you teach a child what a penis is called, what testicles are called, and what they do, and how they are used for the purposes of reproduction, that is not grooming. That is just education and health. That's it. If you teach a child what the labia looks like, and the vulva, and the vagina, and the clitoris, and you will go, well, we'll go all wild, hog wild, and you can throw in the clitoral hood. That's not grooming. That's telling them what the parts of their own body are called. That's it. If you teach children about menstruation, and when I'm talking about children, I mean all children need to be taught all these terms, whether they have those anatomical components or they don't, because humans have those anatomical components, and they are human. And they may very well encounter those anatomical components, whether they possess them or not, over the course of their life. Teaching children about consent is not grooming. Teaching children that not only does consent involve sex, but consent involves everything else. Consent involves you don't have to shake the hand of somebody you don't want to shake. You want to give them a fist bump, or you just want to don't have any physical contact with that person at all? That's your right. That you have the right to refuse to hug anyone, regardless of if they're a member of your family or not. That you have the right to refuse to sit in somebody's lap, whether they're a member of your family or not. That you have the right to refuse any form of physical contact that you do not desire, that you are not comfortable with, and that is your right. Consent is more than put tab A into slot B, repeat as necessary. That is education. That is giving children tools. What do I mean by tools? See, if you give kids all that information, age appropriate, as they get older, you're not necessarily going to be talking about clitoral hoods to third graders, but you're going to want to be talking about that to high school students. Okay? But if every kid understands these things, they will now have a very clear idea of what is appropriate and inappropriate for their age bracket and for their cohorts and for the adults in their lives. So if two cohorts decide that they want to do some exploration, that isn't inappropriate if they have given each other consent. I know that's going to freak out some adults, but that's life. That's what humans do. And it isn't creepy, and it isn't grooming if kids actually experience life together the way that kids have always experienced life together. particularly if they come at it as equals with the understanding of what bodily autonomy and consent mean. But it also means kids are going to know that if an adult wants to engage with the child in that particular manner, no, that's not right. And if that little feeling in your gut tells you it's wrong, you listen to it. And you get away from that adult and you find someone you trust and you tell that person you trust, that creepy fucker tried to touch me. Now, how do I know that sensation in your gut? Because I've felt it. I've been the target of an adult whose aim was to molest children. I know exactly what that feels like in every definition of that particular word in this context. I know exactly what that feels like. And I'd never been taught the proper names of body parts. I had never been taught about sex and bodily autonomy and agency and consent. I didn't have the tools at my disposal. Now I do. Too damn late. But now I understand. And we can make our kids understand. And if we do that, that's not grooming. That's education. Yeah, I know this is going on long, but that's okay. I'm getting to a point. But you know what else that does? That means that kids are not going to be accepting the socially conservative worldview that tells them you have to be what I want you to be. You have to shut up and do what I say, which is a really great framing if they've been taught to just listen to authoritarian adults without question, and they don't know anything about what the anatomy is called, don't know anything about what sex is, don't know anything about what consent is. So they don't know where the line is drawn. So the parents and the authoritarian figures in the church, and the coaches, and the doctors, and the scoutmasters can just walk right over that line, and the kids will never see it coming. So raising children with a socially conservative worldview and making sure that they're ignorant of what anatomy is called and what sex is and what consent is and what bodily autonomy is and what agency is, that is grooming.